Welcome to Carlo and Bob, the best show in town, where generations square off as a millennial and a baby boomer discuss the latest topics and headlines with a focus on financial literacy and retirement planning.
For our December 31st show, New Year's Eve, our headline will talk about the default of the Puerto Rico bonds. In our Q&A, we'll talk about what is a contrarian investor, who is the millionaire next door, and what is the S&P 500. In our own segments, we'll talk a little bit about the magic of compound interest and how that snowball effect works. And we'll talk about one of the members of the greatest generation who survived the Depression and World War II and who recently passed away. And we'll conclude with our New Year's resolutions.
Hello again, everybody. You're here with Carlo and Bob. How you doing again today, Bob?
Great, Carlo. How are you doing? This is our New Year's Eve edition.
New Year's Eve edition. We had the Christmas Eve edition or the New Year's edition.
Yep, but let's get right into it and get to our headlines.
Sounds good. So what do we got here? We got Puerto Rico default.
Yeah, remember earlier session we talked about bonds and what bonds are.
Yes.
Bonds are like an IOU.
Sure.
You lend some money to somebody or a corporation. And Puerto Rico has a lot of bonds out there, like $90 billion. $90 billion of bonds. So they got a lot of IOUs out there.
Are there various countries out there that own these bonds, or is it
individuals?
States? I mean,
yeah,
just anybody. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of mutual funds. ETFs might have Puerto Rico bonds as one of their holdings. So there's a lot of people holding them out there. You may be holding them and you may not even be aware if you got a certain mutual fund, like a municipal mutual fund
that had something to do with them.
That's right.
Could they be considered junk bonds right about now since they defaulted?
Well, they're pretty low. Yeah, pretty low.
Graded.
They've missed some payments and they got a January payment. They're going to try to make most of it. But the reality is their economy has been doing poorly for about 10 years and they're struggling.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting parts about their situation is, I don't know if you read about the Detroit bonds and the problem they were having.
I know about Detroit. And I've heard about them. As far as their part of it, I don't know.
Detroit was able to go through bankruptcy court and restructure their bonds and get themselves back in order. One of the interesting things I read about Puerto Rico is because they are a territory, they're not allowed to go to bankruptcy court unless Congress approves it.
So they're kind of in like this, okay, I'm in the woods, I'm bare, I don't know where to go to the bathroom, but you're in the woods. Like, you got to be told, okay, go say, like, you're kind of confused. I would be confused if I'm in that situation.
And it doesn't look like Congress is going to give them permission to go to bankruptcy court, so it's just going to be a legal mess. Attorneys are going to have a field day. Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be interesting to watch what goes on down there. But that's one of the interesting parts is they can't go through bankruptcy court right now unless Congress approves, and it doesn't look like they're going to give them the approval.
And so we aren't a political show and never will be. We always state that when we come up with some of these questions. Now, why isn't Congress doing that, though?
One reason I read is that some members think their conservative members would get upset if they allowed them to do this.
Maybe kind of like a bailout again.
Yeah.
And then there's more money from, again, territory, which I believe is owned by the U.S.
It's part of the U.S., but
so
not
we're a
state.
team. I can see how that is a conservative trade. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, you don't want to shed out more tax dollars to bail out.
And one of the things that this kind of bears to light is the whole municipal pension issue in our country.
Ooh, shed some light.
Well, a lot of our townships, states, counties have pension plans that they've made promises to their employees, but they haven't funded those promises.
It's been tough because the revenue hasn't been there to fund.
Yeah.
Or if it has been there, they maybe use that revenue for something else because something else was growing up big.
That's right. Politicians are great for that.
There you go. Well, the Social Security, again, thing. I mean, I can see how people are living longer. That makes sense. This is what I'm a big believer for you guys and a big advocate. When you put in money in Social Security, you get that money back. That's what I believe. Yep. That's just me.
So it's something to, it could be a kind of a foreshadowing of what we might be looking at in other municipalities. Detroit was one of the first. Puerto Rico is having problems, and other municipalities may run out of money because they don't have tax revenue to pay these promises.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Okay, so it's for everyone out there that maybe doesn't understand the political game. I mean, so it's the tax revenue that will pay for these bond holders.
It comes from you and me. There's no other place for it to come from.
Wow. And clearly their economy hasn't been good enough that they haven't been collecting those taxes. Whether someone wasn't making it or they just aren't collecting it.
And
whatever.
Other municipalities may run into something similar. So something to keep on a lookout for on the horizon.
As we will.
So let's shift to our Q&A. What do you got to Q&A wise?
What is a contrarian investor?
Well, it sounds like we're going to do a bunch of hodgepodge questions today.
Contrarian. When I hear contrarian, I don't know. I think of a bird. I don't know. What's a contrarian investor? What kind of bird is that?
Some kind of
something.
Yeah,
I'm thinking anyway. Contrarian investor. What do we got, Bob?
Well, I read this article, quote from Warren Buffett. You know who Warren Buffett is?
I know he's one of the best investors ever. I can give you that. But I also want to go a little. Is he the richest man now? Apparently the best.
Coined as one of the best investors. But here's a quote from him. There's two super contagious diseases. Fear and greed, and they will forever occur in the investment community. The timing of these epidemics will be unpredictable. We simply attempt to be fearful when others are greedy, and to be greedy only when others are fearful. This is the simple recipe for being a contrarian investor. So what do you think? Did you get that?
I feel like I just listened to some Tupac right there. That was deep. That was some good lyrics there. No, I get it. A contrarian investor can be both, either someone that kind of preys on the fearful and someone that is actually fearful of the predator. Is that what the contrarian investor is?
Yep, he tries to go against the crowd. That's the best way to put it.
Me, is what you're saying. So when someone's doing great, no, I'm joking. No, I get it.
In 2008, the market go down 50%. Everybody's fearful. Oh. You know what the contrarian investor's doing? He was buying stocks when everybody else was selling.
Just like the Rockefellers bought all the property back then when no one was able to buy in the Depression and stuff.
Yep. And the flip happens when everybody's buying and the market's gone to new highs.
Ooh, he sells.
So he tries to buy low and sell high. What we all should try to do. And it's hard to do, but that's what a contrarian investor tries to do. It's a hard thing to do because, our emotions get in the way. If you saw your stock was down 50%, what do you want to do?
Oh my gosh. That's a good. I never thought about that. I have heard that buy low, sell high. I mean, do you think that works? Okay, we understand that he thinks it works. He is one of the best. But what do you think?
Well, I think what it gets to the point of you can't let your emotions drive your decisions.
I've heard
and
that
as human beings, we are prone to allow emotions to drive our decisions. Emotions should be in the back seat of the car.
Absolutely.
And we should be driving with our reason.
But most of the time, we're making decisions based off our emotion. And that makes sense because I do that all the time. What we got? Who is the millionaire next door, Bob?
That's kind of a trick question. Did you ever read the book The Millionaire Next Door?
No, but it sounds interesting. The Millionaire Next Door.
It's written by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. And I read an article on MarketWatch.com about this book, and it's an interesting book because it defines the millionaire next door as someone who doesn't look like it. He or she doesn't display the wealth, no fancy car, no $5,000 watch. They live in a regular middle-class neighborhood.
The millionaire next door, again, never heard, but I have heard the whole, live below your means. Sometimes you wouldn't even know who the millionaire is. Like those phrases are, okay.
According to the statistics in this book, more than 80% of the U.S. millionaires are ordinary people who accumulated their wealth in the one generation. It wasn't hand-me-down wealth.
It was one generation. It doesn't matter, but...
Yeah. The book says the most important factor in building wealth is underconsumption. You hit it on the nail earlier.
Amen. Live below your means. They're just wearing a normal sweater, normal sweatpants when they're going out on a run. They're not wearing these Gucci sneakers and they're not driving up to the gym in a Maserati. We don't need that. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah. So there's two Q&As today. Talk about leaving emotions out of your investing and save by, spending less than what you make.
There you go. I mean, you don't have to make $1 million a year to be a millionaire. You just don't have to spend $1 million when you're not making it a year. There you go.
I always tell the story of a professional that I consulted for, and he and his wife were professionals. Mm-hmm. They had saved $8 million in their retirement plan.
Wow.
They were age 65, and they were afraid to retire. They didn't think they had enough money.
What was your face like when they said that to you? I mean, you don't have much of a theatrical type of face. So, I mean, not that people really know because they're not seeing this, but what would you have said back? I mean,
well, you have to act in a professional manner,
sure,
and you have to understand where they're coming from. They have a plane.
Wow.
They like to fly around. They have fancy cars.
Wow.
Their standard of living was.
You said they were in their 60s.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell us verbatim. I'm just like, what was the advice though? I mean, okay, let's just say someone comes to you you. I don't think I'm ready to retire. I'm 65 and I have $8 million saved. What do you say to me?
Well, I think the bottom line is, I always say in retirement, you start with what are the level expenses I need to live comfortably.
Okay.
And start figuring that out. And then maybe that $8 million will be enough if we get a handle on what our expenses are.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't have a handle on those expenses.
And once you do, again, law and order type of thing in your budget. Let's go to our third one, Bob. What is the S&P 500?
Well, the S&P stands for Standards and Poor. That's the company.
And Poor.
Yep.
I mean, does Poor seem as an appropriate name? I mean,
I never thought about that.
That's a fair question. We're talking about money. Why poor? I don't get it.
I don't know either. We'll have to look that one up, where Poor came from. But Standards and Poor is the name of the company. And what they do is they pick the 500 largest companies in the United States.
Okay, wow.
And it's an index of these 500 companies. And a lot of you may be in mutual funds or ETFs that are S&P 500 index funds that invest in these 500 largest companies in America.
And from what I remember, though, they usually have a simple return. Not like, it's not a drastic. Is that the point? Like, these are sustainable businesses, at least for that year?
Well, what do you think the top 10 companies in the S&P 500 are? The top 10 that out of the 500.
Let me throw 5, because I know I won't get all 10 of them. Let me throw 5 and just see. I want to say Apple. I got to say Apple.
Ding.
Okay. Well, Microsoft.
Ding.
Okay, good. I got to go with a car company. I'm just going to say Ford. Oh, jeez. GE?
Ding.
2 more. I don't know. Let's say Chrysler.
No car companies.
No car company. So 1 more. 3 strikes and I'm out, and I'm already at 2, but I only need 1. Virgin Airlines. I tried to go with something. I thought those were good. What is that?
All right, so Apple Computer's at the top, number 1.
Okay, I got number 1.
Here's one that'll kind of fool you. Alphabet is number 2.
Every time I hear Alphabet, I just think of the letters. So wait, what's Alphabet?
Well, Alphabet is the new name for Google.
Oh, not fair.
Didn't you know that?
I could have said Google. I didn't even think of Google. I bet you would have counted if I said Google.
Yeah, I would have counted it.
Darn it. Okay.
Yeah, they changed their name earlier this year.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't like that.
Microsoft is 3. ExxonMobil is 4. Oil company. General Electric 5. Johnson & Johnson at 6.
Pretty good. Yeah, good
Wells
company.
Fargo 7. Amazon at 8. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, 9.
Didn't think of that one.
And JP Morgan comes out at 10. So interesting part is, let's say you buy a mutual fund with the S&P 500.
Could you afford that, though, knowing that Berkshire is in that?
They buy little pieces. Remember, a mutual fund pools money from lots of people.
Better be pulling over 200,000 because I think one share's around that. But anyway, okay.
And you put $10,000 in that mutual fund. Do you know that 3.7% of that investment is in Apple stock? So even if you didn't think you owned any Apple, by investing in an S&P 500 mutual fund with that $10,000 investment, $370 is in Apple stock.
Jeez.
A lot of us are invested in Apple and we don't even know it if we're in a mutual fund, because a lot of stock mutual funds.
Well, then you
Apple.
can thank me. I just bought a MacBook Pro. So, I mean, there you go. I'm funneling money that way. Okay, well, like we said, though, earlier, the S&P, does that return decent payouts at the end of the year?
Well, it's like the stock market, up and down. It's like the roller coaster. You'll hear me say that over and over again. It's not as volatile as other stock funds because it's U.S. U.S. companies tend to be more stable. It's large companies. Large companies tend to be more stable than small companies. So it's a combination of U.S. and large companies make it more stable, and it's not as bumpy a ride as you'll get with international or small companies.
Not too much turbulence.
Yeah.
Going to our segments, I'm going to actually kind of feed off of our last Q&A and just run into my one segment because we each get one. I like to think I know a little bit about stocks or just what we've been talking about because, this is our goal, is to shed light on people that may have no idea. I actually have no idea. So I understand the compound aspect of it and whatnot. So if I decided to open up an IRA, right, and one of them was an S&P 500 index ETF or mutual fund.
Yep.
When that year is over, does my, not my bank account, but does my fund, when they say compound, that means you have to compound off of something that was already given back to you in a way to build off so that it could build off again. When my stocks are up and that year ends, does something just kind of cut it off and say, okay, that's your earnings, that's your proceeds, now we're going to build off it for another year? How does that work? Because in my mind, I just think that it just continues to go down and up on a roller coaster until you decide to retire, and all of a sudden, voila, it's built up because you let it stay in for as long as the stocks were going up. I don't understand how that works. works?
Well, let's say you started with $1,000 in an S&P mutual fund,
Okay.
and you elected to have any dividends or capital gains reinvested. So you didn't take it in cash, okay?
But you say capital gains.
Yep.
When do we get those capital gains is my question.
Most mutual funds will declare them once a year in December of each year.
Okay.
If they have a lot of stocks that did well and they have some capital gains, they're required by law to distribute them to their shareholders.
Okay.
But as a shareholder, you can elect to take it in cash or have it reinvested into the mutual fund. If you take it in cash, then it's not going to be compounded because I'm taking it in cash.
You're spending it.
But if you reinvest it, then that $1,000 may be $1,200 at the end of the year. And so your starting point for the next year will be the $1,200, not the $1,000. And any gains in the subsequent year will be compounding the $200
on that money.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so really we're talking, when it talks about like this snowball effect with money, it's really just the capital gains, if there are some, or just dividends.
And dividends. It could be
and
both.
And both.
Yep.
As far as if the stock
and
is up.
price appreciation also that maybe didn't get paid out to you because they didn't sell it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right,
that's what I call unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains that are there, but you didn't technically get them.
That's right. They're reflected in the appreciation of the share price.
But then if that share price goes down the next year, do you still get a little bit of that pie that was up that 1 year? That's what confuses me, how people can grow. I always see these articles, and I'm sure people that are listening see these articles all the time, or these ads on Facebook or everywhere you go. Oh, if you start saving when you're 25, it's going to be $200,000. If you start saving $50,000 now, it's going to be worth $2 million. How if the stocks are maybe, let's say, just status quo?
It's magic of compound interest. If you earn 10% a year, in year one it's $1,000. At the end of the year it's $1,100.
Okay.
Keep that money in there, earns another 10%. It's $1,200. Another 10%, it's over $1,300.
And if you're investing more money on top of the actual,
and the snowball just keeps getting larger and larger, and before you know it, you get to age 65. And I got $1 million.
There you go. Yeah. And then real quick on that same thing. So when you say that 10%, that's just including the dividend and the capital gains. Correct?
Everything. Get dividend, capital gains, share appreciation. It could be everything.
Okay. That satisfied me. I have a better understanding then. All right. What's your segment, Bob?
Well, I just want to, this is a personal segment today, but Monday, I believe, of this week, I attended a funeral of Paul Red Lehman, 92 years old.
Sorry to
hear
hear
that. Talk about the baby boomers being the greatest generation. I believe the greatest generation was the generation that went through World War II. Wow. Those born in the 20s went through the Depression, World War II, and went through all those hard times, and they really built this country to be where it is today. And Paul was one of those. And do you know where he was 71 years ago on Christmas Eve?
Jeez, D-Day, I don't know. Where was he?
Christmas Eve, 1944, and the Germans just launched the Battle of the Bulge. Did you ever hear the Battle of the Bulge?
Battle of the Bulge.
Paul was in a foxhole with snow falling, no food. The Germans were yelling at him to surrender, and he with all his comrades stuck it out.
And they really, clearly they fought it. They did something because he made it to 92.
92 years old, yep. Then he went on to the Battle of Bastogne in Belgium, which is another famous battle, and it's the combination of those that broke Germany's back and gave us the freedom that we have today. But it's a salute to Paul and all in that generation who really gave their all for us so that we can enjoy the freedom that we have today.
Yeah, I really can't dispute that. I guess, out of sight, out of mind, if you will. Yeah. And so I'm sure if I saw a little bit of that or felt a little bit more of that, which I think we all should, especially our younger millennials and whatever generations before them, God bless us.
Well, watch the movie Band of Brothers. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I heard there's, I hear they have like a great series on HBO.
Yeah, it's a great series, and they do the Battle of Bulge there, and it really drives home what those young men went through for us.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I lived a full life and a great life. And
sure. Yeah, 92, absolutely. You can't be mad about that. That was all.
So let's end with our New Year resolutions. Give me one resolution for the new year.
I'm not much of a big drinker anymore. I mean, not that I ever really was, but I don't drink much. Can I add what I've been starting the last 3 weeks? I've been trying to do better in weight.
All right.
I'm going to continue to run at least 5 times in the 7 days of the week.
Okay.
Is that fair?
We hear it. Hear it.
It's on record. So if you see me come back, with some type of 300 pounds on me, then clearly it didn't work. And I don't know if I'll be here then by then, 300 pounds. But
my resolution isn't financial or health. It's to enjoy each day. Quit looking backwards and regretting dreading and looking forward and planning. And oftentimes we look back too much or look forward too much and don't enjoy the day that we have, and be thankful that God's blessed us, and just enjoy what we've been given and be appreciative.
Bob, I got to tell you something real quick. That's so true. I have been the last year stressed to a max. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's just normal. Stress is good sometimes, but the whole future thing, I'm always like, oh, tomorrow or the 6th, even though it's the 31st, like just focus on the time I have right now talking with you. It's like sometime, and I think I could probably give a lot more knowledge or learn more if I did focus on the actual minute.
That's right. We lose so much when we don't enjoy the moment.
Amen to that. Bob, again, it was a pleasure doing another series with you.
Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll see you in 2016.
The next season. That's great. We already got our first season done, technically. All right, great. Cheers.